Hey guys, Paul here, the Impulsive Culinarian, and in this video I want to tell you about my gluten-free, dairy-free choux pastry recipe. So what exactly is choux pastry? You may have heard of this in a different name called puff pastry. Okay, these tiny little pastries that are really nice brown and golden, and they puff up in the oven such that the inside is almost hollow, but the dough inside, even though it's cooked, it's nice and soft, like very soft white bread. And then you fill this, you pipe in some custard filling of some sort. Now this is a beautiful dessert, and if you've ever had to go from enjoying them, learning that you're celiac or dairy intolerant, and no longer enjoying them, that's my job now, is to come and help you, because I have developed what I consider to be one of the most delicious gluten-free, dairy-free choux or puff pastry, along with the filling, which is also dairy-free. And guys, once you try these, trust me, no leftovers, and you'll never go back. And don't tell people at your dinner table that they are allergen-friendly, because they won't know the difference. So I do want to tell you one thing about choux pastry. The original traditional recipe, okay, with gluten flour is done in a saucepan. And the reason for that is it's supposed to activate the gluten using heat. Well, in the absence of gluten, I think this is absolutely ridiculous to try and go through the motions of doing something on the stovetop just because, no, it doesn't make any sense. And so you'll find that I'm doing all of this in the stand mixer, just putting all the ingredients in, super simple. And then, well, I'll show you the process as we go through. But essentially, we're skipping that part with the saucepan. Not necessary. And trust me, you'll see the result comes out absolutely perfect. Now, you got to put something inside these puff pastries. It's all well and good to have a choux pastry, but what do you put in? Well, I'm basing my filling on a dairy-free sort of a coconut cream. Now, you'll see the ingredients when I get to it. It's just that you want to make sure not to use a light coconut cream. You want to use that good stuff that has the thick cream inside and the water underneath as it, cream rises to the top. So make sure to get that heavy coconut cream. That's the good stuff. Let's get started. So starting with the choux pastry filling ingredients, let's get a 1/4 cup or 60 grams of cane sugar, a 1/4 cup or 35 grams of cornstarch, and now this third ingredient, very important to find, coconut cream. I'm showing you the contents of the can. You've gotten this stuff before. The cream and the milk are separated when you get it out of the can, and this is the size. It's a little 5.5 ounce can of coconut cream. You've seen this all over the place. That liquid is not enough, so you need to add a 1/4 cup of dairy-free milk, any kind will do, coconut or almond or a blend or otherwise. You get yourself 2 egg yolks, 1 tablespoon of coconut oil, and just a pinch of fine sea salt will do. I've put that here inside my 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now that are the ingredients for the filling. Let's put them together in a medium saucepan. Now, before you turn up the heat, you want to add all of the ingredients that I just showed you into the saucepan, and you want to start whisking them together, and then you start putting on the heat, because you want to pay careful attention to whisk all the way through. So you bring the heat up to medium, and as this slowly comes together, you're going to find that at first, of course, the coconut cream melts, and then it gets to that smooth consistency, but there's a lot of cornstarch in there. And so what you want to do is around the 4 or 5 minute mark over medium heat, you're going to feel it. You're going to get that sort of sensation that it's beginning to thicken. Right there is where it starts to just get that little. The cornstarch is cooking, and it's just starting to thicken. Give it another 15-20 seconds while you're whisking, and then get it right off the heat. You don't want to go any more than that, otherwise it's going to curdle, and it's just thick enough. That's perfect custard consistency. So get your medium saucepan over to the counter space where you can work. Give it another whisk just to make sure that everything is nice and smooth, and you'll see the consistency of that is just lovely. A beautiful custard consistency, just perfect. Now you want to get yourself a clean bowl and a fine mesh sieve, and then you want to push all of that custard through the fine mesh sieve. That's going to really help it be as smooth as possible. If you've never done this, guys, it's really simple. You just rub the back of the spoon against the bottom of the sieve, and it may seem like you're getting nowhere fast, but eventually it starts to go through until you get to the very bottom. Everything has gone through. You scrape off all of that good stuff, and now you have definitely done everything that you can to make this a smooth custard mixture. So get yourself a small airtight container. Transfer the contents into that container, seal it up with a nice airtight lid, put that in the refrigerator for at least 2 hours in order to set. Longer is fine. Now, the ingredients for the choux pastry: get yourself a 1/2 cup of coconut oil, 1/2 cup of dairy-free milk. Again, any blend will do, whatever you normally use during the course of the week. 1/2 cup of water, 1/2 tablespoon of cane sugar, and a pinch of salt. Now for the gluten-free flour ingredients, you get yourself a half of a cup or 65 grams of Masa Harina flour, that's Mexican white corn flour, half of a cup or 90 grams of sweet white rice flour, very important ingredient that one, and a half of a cup or 60 grams of tapioca flour. That's the blend that I love for this recipe. Of course, 1 teaspoon of guar gum to help bind it all together, and 3 eggs, preferably organic. So get yourself a stand mixer. Do you have to use a stand mixer? I highly recommend. It is the best way to make sure that this mixture is nice and fluffy. So you get all of those ingredients that I told you about, except for the eggs, into the stand mixer. Start it on low so you don't get a face full of tapioca flour, and just until it's combined. While that's happening, you want to get those 3 eggs into a bowl and then vigorously whisk those so that you got yourself a nice little concoction of scrambled eggs. And then the next step is going to be to get those into the bowl of the stand mixer. So basically pour those in and start off that paddle on low, just so you don't have a little bit of a mess, and gradually increase to medium. If you let this go for around 1.5 minutes, you're going to see exactly what happens. That mixture becomes really smooth, really velvety, and you can tell that the change right there is where it starts to happen. You can see it's so smooth, it's almost like whipping cream. And that's the consistency that you want. So get yourself 2 baking sheets, which you're going to line with parchment paper. Now these have to be able to fit side by side in the oven at the same time. You can do them separately if needed, but I find it's a lot easier to do all the batch at the same time. So there's the consistency of that beautiful choux pastry. Get yourself a tablespoon, and now you're in the business of getting tablespoon-sized puffs onto the parchment paper. Now leave around 1/2 or 3/4 of an inch in between each puff. They won't expand that much, and you could probably fit around 17 or 18 per sheet. Should yield around 35 to 36 pastries at the end of all of it. So when you're done, this is what it should look like. Now you want to get these puffs in a 400-degree oven for exactly 30 minutes with the door closed the whole time. You have to resist the temptation. Do not open the door while they're cooking. And when it's all done, this will be the end result. Beautiful round puffs, so golden on the outside and really smooth and silky on the inside. So you want to let them cool in the oven for 15 minutes with the door open. So turn off the oven and let them cool. And once that's done, you're going to take them out. They're ready to fill. And they're beautiful and golden. Look at that. The texture inside is just so nice. They have an actual hollow hole inside. They have truly puffed like an authentic choux pastry. And that little layer of the inside dough, which is cooked, but it's just so smooth and soft, exactly like it should be. So now it's time to get out your filling, which has been chilling in the fridge for at least 2 hours. It's going to be a little hard at first, so you want to take a whisk and really go at it. Just make sure to loosen it up and transfer this into a pastry bag. And if you don't have one of these, that's cool. You can just get a Ziploc bag and cut the corner off. But I happen to have one. I use it maybe once, twice a year, max, if that. So get those choux pastries now that they're ready to fill and they're nice and cooled. If you need to, pierce them with a little knife just to make a hole to put the filling in, that's fine. Otherwise, there usually is a crack of some sort that you can use to get that custard in. You don't have to fill them up too much so they burst. Just 1/2 teaspoon or so will do the trick. And once you're done, these lovelies are going to go fast, especially if there's kids around. So there's your final plate, guys. Delicious gluten-free, dairy-free choux pastry and filling for the win. So thanks for checking out the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a blast to make these, and of course, there are no leftovers. The kids get their hands on this, and it's game over. So if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Lots of great allergen-friendly, gluten-free, dairy-free content coming out every single week. 3 videos in total, in fact. So one of them focused on allergen-free cooking, as well as a second video based on international cuisine, traveling the world virtually from the comfort of the IC kitchen, trying out lots of traditional classics from all over the world, putting my spin on those. And a third video focused on healthy recipes, because guys, we should all be living our best life possible. My name is Paul, the Impulsive Culinarian. I can't wait to see you in the next video.